Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to America and we're going to visit a state that I have never tried anything from as far as I can remember. So for the first time we are going to go to Iowa, to Decorah in Iowa in particular, and we're having a taste of my first beer from Toppling Goliath Brewing Company. So this is a brewery I've heard a lot of good things about, particularly when it comes to IPAs, and today we're going to have a taste of their Pompey IPA, which comes in at 6.2% ABV. There have been a few different versions of this beer from what I gather. Originally it was 7.2%, but it's a very, very highly rated IPA, and you know, as I say, this is a brewery that I've heard a lot of good things about. I was quite lucky to come across this when I visited Kiosk in Copenhagen. I was really glad that I was finally able to try a beer from Iowa, and I will actually be in Iowa and Chicago in May, which will be my first trip to the US in about 9 months actually. I'm not sure if I'll make it up to Toppling Goliath because there is a bit of a quick kind of turnaround for this trip, friend's wedding, but it will be cool to review a couple more Chicago and Iowa craft beers for you when I'm over there, and I'll hopefully be able to bring some back as well. But yeah, very much looking forward to this one. It's an IPA that's very well regarded and it's from another state that I've never tried anything from, so I really hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer, and I'm very curious to see how this one turns out. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll hopefully be able to do in the future from Toppling Goliath. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about the Toppling Goliath Brewery. So Toppling Goliath was founded back in 2009 by Clark and Barb Louie, and they're based in Decorah in Iowa, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But Clark had apparently been involved in the beverage industry with his family's company for around 28 years before he decided to start the brewery, and prior to that he did a tour with the US Air Force as well. But he used to have to drive an hour to Wisconsin to actually get craft beer, and decided that he was sick of this and that he would start his own brewery to kind of get around this. Apparently, you know, all that time ago it was only like Miller and Coors and all of these kind of things that you could get in Iowa, and it basically just pissed him off, to be honest with you. But he's also a lover of wine, and he also used to make his own wine as well, and he toyed with the idea of a brew pub for a number of years. But he later started home brewing beer with his wife Barb, and this was where the roots of Toppling Goliath Brewery began. But he started making IPAs, which you know, his brothers and stuff weren't so into. They weren't into the big massive hoppy beers, but he developed a lager which was called Dorothy's New World Lager, named after his grandmother, I think. But this went down very, very well with his brothers, and this, I believe, became one of the first Toppling Goliath beers. But soon after starting the company, he hired Mike Sabo as his brewmaster, who also had a considerable background in chemistry and biology. And over the last few years, this brewery's kind of grown to have a very, you know, an excellent reputation in terms of its beers, particularly in the IPA style category. But there has been a little bit of controversy surrounding the treatment of staff and things like that. There's been several lawsuits. If you look at the newspapers and stuff, there's been several lawsuits noted in the press over the last couple of years. But today the brewery have a large tap room at the brewery that has over 20 taps. They also serve food there, and they offer brewery tours as well and give you tasters and things like that too. It looks like a very impressive facility that they've got, and they're producing well over 100,000 barrels of beer, and they've produced around 80 different varieties according to Untappd as well, which is pretty impressive. I mean, for these guys, they're about coming up for their 10th anniversary this year. So yeah, maybe we'll see some more interesting beers from them. It'd be cool to review their 10th anniversary beer for you, if indeed the guys in Copenhagen get it. Of course, here in Sweden we don't have a free market when it comes to the beer, but over in Denmark they do. So when it comes to getting goodies like this, I do have to jump across to Copenhagen from here in Skåne to pick up these different beers. But yeah, really interesting brewery, this one. It's a brewery in America that has a very, very good reputation in terms of IPAs and stuff like that. It's one of the, you know, it always tends to be the breweries that are very, very good at IPAs that we hear about over here in Europe. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Toppling Goliath Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and of course you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on there. But now we can get rid of the brewery notes and we can get on to actually tasting the beer itself. So as you can see with this one, lovely artwork on this. As I mentioned at the start of the video, this one is a 6.2% IPA. From what I gather, it is hopped with Mosaic, mainly because of all the mosaics that they had in Pompeii before the volcano went off. This IPA is brewed with the same attention to detail as the beautiful mosaics that grace the walls of the prominent buildings in the city of Pompeii. It features mango and pineapple hop flavours with a medium-bodied feel to tantalise the senses. Brewed by Toppling Goliath Brewing Company in Decorah in Iowa. So yeah, nicely presented that. There you can see the Toppling Goliath symbol on this one just at the top of the can, and this one I believe it's 16 ounces, so it's 1 US pint, which I believe is somewhere around 450 millilitres, something like that. A lot of European breweries, of course, are doing the 440 milliliter cans now to copy the American measurements. I don't know why. Use the half litres, because it's, you know, it's based, the whole metric system is based on waters. I always complain about this with American beers. I've no idea what a fluid ounce actually is in millilitres or anything like that. But I mean, who cares? It is not such a big deal. But yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. So without further ado, I guess, let's get it out and into the glass, and we'll see how we get on. Shout out, of course, to the guys at Kiosk in Copenhagen. They've got a great selection of Danish, other Scandinavian, and American beers. These guys, Kiosk, are one of the best folk at getting in the different American beers for us, because for us in Europe, of course, it's really cool to try things from different states. But yeah, this one, oh, I was expecting more of a West Coast IPA with this actually. But yeah, this one definitely looks a little bit like more of a New England IPA. If I hold this one up to the light, it's kind of somewhere, it's in between orange and yellow, this one. It's leaning more towards the yellow side of things. You can see there's a solid finger of quite a bumpy white head on this one. Yeah, I would definitely say this is more of a bumpy head than a frothy head. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and there's a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it looks pretty nice, and as I say, I was expecting a West Coast IPA from this one, but it definitely appears to be more of a New England IPA. So yeah, nothing wrong with that. We like all kinds of IPAs. But yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we got on. You can see this beer is pretty much completely hazy if I put my fingers behind the glass. But yeah, let's take a look at the aroma and see how we get on. Oh, that smells nice. So yeah, they were saying there's a bit of pineapple coming out of this one. I can definitely pick that up. Definitely some pineapple in there. I think there's a tangerine orange in here, to be honest with you. And if they are using mosaic hop in this, that would make sense. I've always found that mosaic gives you this lovely tangerine orange note. But I'll tell you, from the aroma, I suspect there's citra in here as well, because you do get mango out of it, and you know, you don't really get mango from the mosaic hop. Mango, really, the big mango hop that everybody uses is citra. So I suspect the two hops in this are citra and mosaic, and it's a very good combination actually. There's a lot of breweries using that. Galaxy from Australia is the other one that's becoming very popular at the moment. Simcoe used to be a very popular hop in terms of the passion fruit, but Galaxy is passion fruit and a little bit more complex as well, so more people are using Galaxy as opposed to Simcoe these days. But yeah, but this is a really nice smelling beer. In terms of its fruitiness, as I say, you're getting a bit of mango in there, you're getting the tangerine oranges. The tangerines, I've always found the aroma's it's almost just like a little bit lighter and less oily than a regular orange. You definitely have a bit of pineapple in there. That's one of the complexities of the mosaic hop. And you can also pick up just a little touch of blueberry, I think, as well. If you take it in and just towards the front of your nose, there's definitely a little bit of that juicy blueberry quality to this beer, and I've always found that's a really nice complexity that you get with mosaic. On the green side of the hops, this beer, it does, for me, this one is actually quite floral. You can smell a good bit of that floral aromaticity coming out of the beer. It does have some of the lighter kind of grassy tones to it, but mainly it's a nice mainly it's a nice sort of floral aromaticity, and it has a little touch of spice to it as well, which is interesting. So I do wonder if they've maybe used like Magnum as the Magnum or maybe Columbus as the, probably more likely to Columbus actually, going by the Aroma. If they've maybe used one of these hops as the bittering hop and then they've added the Aroma hops a bit later in the brew and stuff like that. It's quite common in Europe to do that. They use like a base hop like Columbus or whatever, and then they add the American, New Zealand hops and stuff like that to the beer later. But it's probably because it's cheaper, because they're having to import all these things from Australia and Canada and New Zealand, Australia, America, New Zealand, and stuff like that. But of course we have German hops and Slovenian hops and everything like that over here, which are very, very good as well. But yeah, green side of the hops is very nice. On the malty side of things, the oats are very creamy in this one, I think. It's got a little bit of a biscuity sweetness as well. And you can smell some of that nice, wheaty, smooth, white bread quality as well. You can really, really get that out of this beer. There's almost a little bit of a sharpness to the malt base as well. I mean, it reminds me actually of some of the Magic Rock beers from Yorkshire in England. You can almost just smell a tiny little bit of like an acidulated malt in there, which is kind of interesting. There is just something in there that makes me wonder if they're using a little bit of the acidulated malt, which would be kind of interesting. So yeah, maybe this beer will remind me a little bit of those Magic Rock ones that I was drinking when I was in Durham in England. But yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. But we're going to try this one now. So this one is the Pompeii IPA from Toppling Goliath Brewing Company in Decorah, or Decorah, however you pronounce it, in Iowa, over in the States, from the northeastern part of the state of Iowa in America. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, no, that's a nice beer. It's very, the first thing you're going to notice about this one, it's got a nice little bit of sharpness in the beginning. That comment I was making about the acidulated malts in this, I don't think there is that in this, in the flavour, but there is a bit of sharpness to this beer when you take it in. But yeah, that's a very, very nice New England IPA, that, and you know, with a brewery that has this reputation, it's not surprising. But one of the things that's always kind of interesting when you think about these, when we try these American beers, of course America is widely regarded as being you know, the home of craft beer, but when you try things like this from the really hyped up American breweries, and then you try some of the stuff from the breweries that we get here in Sweden and in Denmark, and even some of the breweries back in Scotland. Now, I mean, they're doing beers that are the same quality as this, which is very, very good. It's just amazing to see how kind of widespread these you know, the New England IPA and stuff, and these different styles have come. Even some of the Japanese breweries, when I've been over there, because I go there quite regularly, you know, some of the Japanese breweries are producing beers that are as good as this as well. So it's really cool, and to try one of these ones that's from a brewery that's very well known, particularly for the IPA style, and think that the European breweries are doing things that are as good as this, it's pretty awesome actually, I have to say. But this is a lovely beer, this. I've been talking about other breweries and other beers, but this one is a lovely beer. So yeah, you know, for those of you watching in Europe, you know, if in Sweden in particular, if they like the likes of the beers from Amar Bryghus in Denmark, you know, Gamma, Ulsnebkaren, all of these kind of guys, and if in Sweden you like, you know, the Stigberg, it's the Nerd Brewing, OO Brewing and stuff like this, you are definitely going to enjoy this one. So yeah, let's focus on the malt base first off then. With this beer, sorry about that guys, issue with the camera there, so little edit. But yeah, with this one, as I was saying, the malt base, it's got a lovely kind of white, bready, wheaty smoothness. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, you really start to get the nice creamy oaty notes, and in the very centre of your palate, pardon me, that's where you start to pick up the more kind of biscuity, kind of sweet edge to the beer. I do wonder about this. I'm finding that the malt base in this beer is just it dries out quite a bit actually as you go further into the beer itself, and I'm really curious as to whether there is a little touch of acidulated malt in this one. Yeah, I do wonder if there is a little touch of acidulated malt in there. This beer is very smooth, but sometimes, there are a couple of breweries, and as I say, Magic Rock in England are one of the breweries that like to do it. I suspect that there's a little tiny touch of an acidulated malt in this one, and it just gives the beer a little tiny sharpness, if you like, to the malt base. But the further you go into the aftertaste with this one, I would say it gets nice and smooth. It really gets nice and smooth with that sort of wheaty, oaty base of the beer, and you've got the nice biscuity kind of sweetness just pushing its way out further into the aftertaste as well. On the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. But as you kind of come further forward along the sides of the palate, that earthiness, it's a little bit darker at the back, but then it just smooths out a little bit as you come further forward, and then as you get towards the front corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of a slightly spicy floral aromaticity to this one. I do suspect that there is another bittering hop at play in here rather than just it being Citra and Mosaic, because there is a little bit of spiciness in here. Could it be Columbus? I'm not quite sure. But then round the very front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy, which is kind of what you always get. The green side of the hops in this one are quite nice. You get the earthiness from the Mosaic, and you've got a slightly spicy floral aromaticity, which, as I say, I suspect comes from Columbus or something along these lines. Behind the front curve of the palate, though, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy, fruity esters start to come out of the beer. And this one, again, it's kind of what you would expect from the Aroma, actually. Yeah, I mean, you have got a nice little bit of mango in there, and as I say, I do suspect there is Citra in this one, quite heavily suspect there is a bit of Citra, because there is a little touch of mango in there, but to me, it's definitely leaning more towards sort of tangerine orange. There's a lot more orange in the flavour of this beer, I think, than there is mango. But the mango is the mango's almost like a kind of complexity, if you like. It's when you try the Citra hop on its own, you get the mango as the mainstay, but then you get lychee and gooseberries and all of these other kind of things with that hop. That's what the mango is like for me. You can pick up that little bit of mango just towards the back of that oily bubble, as I say, just coming out behind the tip of your tongue, but you get that mango-y quality to the beer. You've got that nice kind of orangey, tangerine note, and it's actually interesting because it's a slightly more oily orange than you would normally get from Mosaic, in my opinion. I mean, usually if you want a big oily orange, it's Amarillo that you go for, but if you move further towards the front of the palate, you start to get the more kind of pineapple-y notes to this one, which is nice. And on the very kind of front tip, right in the centre of your palate, you have a nice just touch of blueberry, and that again is one of these little complexities that you can get out of the Mosaic hop as well. Mosaic always gives you kind of oranges, tangerine oranges, a little bit of blueberry, and sometimes some kind of pineapple as well. So yeah, this is a really nice. It's a really nice kind of example of the style of this one. I mean, and it's not surprising, you know, Toppling Goliath have a reputation for a reason, and they've produced a very nice beer, so this one isn't a surprise, but it is always cool to try these New England IPAs from the American breweries that have such reputations, and then you see just how good some of our European breweries are comparing these, which is awesome as well. But yeah, this is a lovely beer. If you like more orangey leaning New England IPAs, this is one that's going to hit the spot for you, and it does have a little bit more of the kind of tropical fruit in it as well. It's got some nice complexities to it, but to me, I would say that this one, if you like hops like Amarillo, Mosaic, you've also got Pacifica from New Zealand, Mandarina Bavaria from Germany. If you like the more orange, and Azaka is another one from America, if you like the more orangey leaning IPAs, then this is one that's going to hit the spot for you. But that said, it does have a little bit of a kind of tropical kind of complexity to it. There is a little bit of mango and pineapple in here, but to me, this one definitely leans a little bit more towards the tangerine orangey side of things. But the main question is, we can debate about the fruits all day. The main question is whether it's a good beer or not, and I'd say, yeah, it certainly is. This is a very nice, very smooth New England IPA. It drinks very easily. I do suspect that they've maybe used a little touch of acidulated malt in here, which is quite nice. It does remind me of these Magic Rock beers from over in Yorkshire in England. Yeah. Pretty sure there's a bit of acidulated malt in here. I wasn't picking it up initially, but the way at the malt base, it's almost just like the liquid just sits on it just sits above your tongue and slides over it. The acidulated malt is what gives you that in these beers. I do suspect there's a little bit of that in here. But the main point is they've done a nice job of this beer, and I'd be very curious to try some of their other IPAs. I'd be curious to see what a West Coast IPA from these guys is like, and also something from the darker side of the spectrum, like an Imperial Stout or something like that. But yeah, hopefully that's something I can have a look at when I'm actually out at Iowa in May. I'll keep an eye out for that. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, this beer I would say mid-bodied, carbonation's very, very smooth. Overall the mouthfeel, it does have a little bit of creaminess to it, but it's got a little bit of an oily quality as well, and it has a little bit of that sharpness as well. So the acidulated malts, I think, that they've put in here are playing quite an interesting role. It does have, as I say, it's got the creaminess in the malt base, but then it's got a little bit more of an oily, juicy, fruity character. Nice little bit of hoppy bitterness. I suspect this one is around the kind of 30 IBU mark. The malt base, as I say, quite smooth, but then it has a little touch of sweetness on it from the biscuity notes. You've got a little bit of the sharpness in there, as I say. I suspect some acidulated malt has been used in here, and you've also got those nice, juicy, fruity characters as well, which is very, very nice. So yeah, this beer, really quite nice. New England IPA, and I'm glad that I finally got to try one of these beers from Toppling Goliath. This is pretty damn good, I have to say, but I'm not surprised when you consider that the reputation that this brewery has, and I do look forward to trying some other Iowa craft beers as well when I'm out there. So if you're watching from Iowa, do let me know about that, about some other brewery suggestions in the comment section below, and I would love to try and review some of those for you when I'm actually out there. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Pompeii IPA, coming in at 6.2%, a New England IPA with Mosaic, and I suspect Citra as well, from Toppling Goliath Brewing Company in Decorah in Iowa over in America. Really nice beer, this one, and it's cool to finally have a go at one of the beers from a brewery that I've heard a lot of good things about, and hopefully it's not the last one. Hopefully I can review something from these guys fairly soon. But thank you again for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Toppling Goliath Brewery as well, and as I say, give me some other Iowa craft beer recommendations that I can check out when I'm over there. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very, very soon. The Pompeii IPA at 6.2% from Toppling Goliath Brewing Company in Decorah in Iowa over in America. Until the next time, slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål.